It's time to hand out another Prodigy pass. 1 month ago, Gustavo Ariel punched his way in the Prodigy Racing League GR86 Cup to Atlanta Motorsports Park later this year. And today we begin that journey to do it once again. Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpotTV, to the iRacing Esports Network and to Racing Prodigy YouTube. My name is Arjuna Kankipati alongside with Joey Tebben for today's action. And boy, are we in for some fun, because Joey, we've broken out a slow machine once again, a car that's going to challenge the drivers to make their way through a challenging semi-final, all to build up to tomorrow's final action.
It's going to be a ton of action on a very compact track. It's the short layout of the Okayama International Circuit. It's normally a track known for very, very good racing. It's a track where drivers have a lot of experience in the lowest levels of sim racing, but now they come back in a funky new layout with half the track lopped off, slow cars, cold tires. It's going to be drama-filled for both of these 25-minute semifinals.
If you're joining us for the very first time, what are we talking about here? Racing Prodigy is all about E2Real, bringing motorsports to those who maybe it's unaffordable to, because let's be real, going out there for a full season, it's going to cost a lot of money. Racing Prodigy is aligned with our sim racing community. There needs to be more opportunities for our real racing, for other drivers to cross over into real racing, and so we want to give opportunities for those deserving. And Joey, drivers had to make their way here through iRacing Time Attack qualifiers.
And it was a ridiculously close time attack qualifier. I believe the stat was 10th through 40th, separated by 1 singular tenth of a second. The finger there signifying 1 singular tenth of a second. It's ridiculously close. You've got to be at the highest possible level, because specifically with this combo, we'll get into this a little bit later, with this car and this track, so much of it is full throttle, so much of it is high speeds and carrying as much speed as humanly possible, that getting those barest of milliseconds was of the utmost importance. And every single driver who made here has been up a very, very steep climb.
So top 40 have been taken to the semi-final day. We break them up into 2 groups of 20, and the top 10 in each race progresses to tomorrow's final. The winner not just grabbing the Prodigy pass, but a SimLab X1 Pro Sim Racing cockpit. Second place will still have a chance to get a Prodigy pass. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes' time, but they will at least grab some hardware. Asetek Direct Drive wheelbase, 18 Nm of power, as well as the quick release adapter. Third place gets the wonderful grid engineering by SimLab Porsche 911 GT3 Cup dashboard display unit. Plenty of hardware for the podium, and 1 random winner from all participants will receive an Asetek SimSports Invicta Sim Racing boot. Qualifying is underway right now, and Joey, you were talking about how difficult it is going to be to potentially pass out there on track, and so therefore this qualifying session is going to be important to minimize the mistakes and maximize the grid position.
Exactly. I spoke with a bunch of drivers before this weekend began, and they all said it's a little bit like a go-kart track out here in a way. It's only a few corners, there's some long straights, there's some heavy braking zones, and there is a lot of full throttle, so track position is going to be of the utmost importance. It's going to be a race where the draft is immensely important, so you might be able to pass at the front of the field or at the front of a train for first and second, but once you get deeper in the line, it's going to get a little bit more difficult to pass, so you're going to want to be as far up front as humanly possible. And I imagine this is going to be a ridiculously close qualifying session. Every single millisecond is going to matter.
We've jumped into the on-track action because no one needs to look at Joey and myself for very long, but we'll just talk a little bit more about what the Prodigy Pass really means. The opportunity to go to the Atlanta Motorsports Park later this year, October 30th through November 1st, to be able to not just go out there and drive a radical SR1, but also to be tested. Fitness, courtesy of PitFit Training, who are legendary over in Indianapolis for the work that they do. There will be a psychologist who will be working with them as well. Everyone going to be judging our Prodigy Pass races, and so then we will pick our Prodigy search committee and how we can get that additional chance. In terms of qualifying, you talk about the hundreds. It's Henry Moore that currently sits at the top, and he qualified 7th in the time attack qualifiers.
Well, clearly he's found more once we got here to qualifying, so finding some extra speed here. Well done, Henry, in the 41 there. The number 20, Jonathan Smith, on track right now through this penultimate corner, fully flat out through there. That's one of the more than half of the corners on this track where you don't actually have to brake. Then through the final corner, got to extend it as much as possible there, bring it across the line. And I believe he is just starting a lap here. We'll see as he crosses the line. Will this count for him? Will this be any improvement? No, it won't. He's on the clock now into turn 1. See if he can improve on that 6/10 off pole.
I think that is his qualifying session in the books. He's already used the 2 qualifying laps that he will get. And realistically, with this much time left in the session, it's only with those with no times on the board that still have opportunities to improve. Here's one of those contenders working their way through that final sector. And this is going to be one of those tricky zones with the Concertina slowing down and then speeding up and slowing down again as they work their way through the final sector. Matt Adams onto the board in that number 18 machine. And now just one final driver yet to punch their way into the qualifying order.
And these are such short laps that you can afford to wait until later on in the session. There's still 5 minutes to go, and theoretically it only takes about 3 minutes to get through a run with an out lap and 2 sub-1 minute laps. Matt Adams on screen here across the line. Actually, no, Jonathan Smith, rather, across the line on screen here. Not actually getting qualifying lap times done. As Arjuna said, he's used up all of his counted runs, but it can never hurt to be out there to get some extra experience, get a few more laps on the board, get yourself as ready as possible for this race, because he's going to have a lot of work to do from 17th on the grid.
Now all drivers do have times on the board, and 19 of them within 8 tenths. Toby Soriano were 2.5 off. You can tell that he did not get a representative lap onto the board, and so he's going to have plenty of work to do. And Matt Adams up into 7th with his final attempt. It's just Loon now who has one final opportunity to improve in his number 39. Let's see if he's going to be able to find a little bit more speed as we continue to watch. I think that's the 07.
Yep, indeed it is. The 07 of Felipe Cabrera Loyola. I believe he's finished up his qualifying lap time. He's just out there for even more practice in the train. I really can't blame drivers for doing this. It's going to be so difficult to pass here. As I said, you want to be as far up front as possible, but if you're not, you're going to be deep in the field. You're going to need to find speed. You're going to need to move your way forward. Jeffrey Lund, great lap for him to put him up to 7th. And now Felipe Cabrera Loyola, who was once happy starting on the inside in P9. He moves 1 spot backwards, P10. He's got that much more work to do. And that's everybody's qualifying lap done here. Now it's just practice time.
Yep, it is qualifying done and dusted, so let's quickly touch back on what I was talking about slightly earlier when it came to the second opportunity to grab a Prodigy pass and make your way into Prodigy Week, because the top 500 in every single one of our tournaments, not just the ones that we run here on iRacing, have the opportunity to be selected by the Prodigy Search Committee. There will be a 2-person judge, a sim racing influencer, as well as a real-world professional driver, and they will work together to find the single driver eligible to work their way forward. And of course, that's going to present those that just missed out. I see some of them in our chat to be able to work their way in towards our Prodigy Pass selection. We've got, of course, the race coming up. We're going to be focused on the cutoff for 10th, Joey, because those are the drivers that advance to the final tomorrow. But finishing position, important, because it sets our grid order for the finals.
Indeed, it looks a little bit like some qualifying formats you might be used to in the real world for qualifying. Basically, the 2 race winners, they're going to start in the front row. You know that much. How are they going to determine who starts on pole tomorrow? It's going to be whoever sets the faster lap. So, for example, Henry Moore wins today, somebody else wins tomorrow. Henry gets a faster lap than the winner tomorrow. Henry starts on pole, and then it goes down ladder style from 1st to 10th. Row 10 starts on row 10. You get the idea there. It's not too complicated, but it will be an interesting dynamic here. It's not just about track position. If you are leading the race, if you are about to win, you might want to get a little bit of a slingshot and go for that fastest lap to start first instead of second, start on the inside instead of the outside.
That was one of the strategies I was espousing, which I think does mean that not necessarily what we're actually going to end up seeing. Gustavo Ariel, our previous Prodigy Pass winner here on iRacing, has already been joined by Laurens Bertens of Belgium. And, of course, that happened in the PRL SK Racing Mobile Tournament. Not the only opportunity, of course, to come here on iRacing. Before we go racing, it's time to thank all those that make this possible. And, of course, starting with SimLab and Grid. Right now, you can order their exceptional products for sim racers seeking the utmost quality. SimLab's P1X sim racing cockpit has become the gold standard in the industry, while Grid by SimLab has a premium line of official Porsche licensed products available. You can buy Porsche 911 RSR sim racing steering wheels or the 911 GT3 Cup dashboard display unit available on their website. As well as SimLab and Grid, Aztec Sim Sports, proud sponsors, of course, of this Prodigy Racing League. They provide us with their Invicta wheelbase and quick release adapter. It is an impressive set of wheelbases to be used with any wheel with an easy-to-use wheel connection featuring integrated power and data, hassle-free connectivity for all wheels and the wheelbase. Thank you to them for coming on board and not just providing our drivers with some great prizes, but providing our community with some great hardware as well. Always great to have their support. Joey, 20 seconds left in the session before we'll get to the grid order. It's what? 6/10 that split the 19 drivers with representative times.
Yeah, that is pretty ridiculously close, and we're only going to see it get even closer once race time comes around. We see the assortment of drivers on Zoom today. Going to see some of them happy, some of them sad, some of them getting their pre-race hydration in. That's always very important. It's not going to be the longest race in the world. It's going to be a little bit of a short sprint, 25 minutes, but it is going to be full intensity all the way around. Some drivers in VR, some drivers on regular old monitors. Either way, it's going to be a race of endurance, even packed into a short little package.
Well, here we go. The starting grid for the first semi-final in the third tournament for the Prodigy Racing League. It's going to be Henry Moore with a 55.223 that brings us to the green. He was 7th in the time attack qualifiers, finds that extra speed to beat the top qualifier, Kane Halliburton. Tom Katsadonis will be inside of Stephen Dean, while Sam Coiter and Bob Beekman will share row number 3. A couple of drivers, of course, returning from the first event. Plenty of new faces. Jeffrey Lund and Matt Adams will share row 4 with Matt Caruana, who unfortunately had to miss his semi-final in the first event, returning to be alongside Philippe Loyola on that cutoff line inside of the top 10. Thomas O'Regan and Nathan Saxon, 11th and 12th position, have some work to do to move forward, as do Yannick Plescher and then Michael Sikorsky. Nathan Del Carmen made his way to the final in Event 1. He's got some work to do from back in 15th. He'll be alongside Blaze Andrich, while Jack Harrison, Camden Hibbett will line up 17th and 18th positions, just in front of Jonathan Smith and Toby Soriano. It's a pretty stacked field in terms of I-ratings out there. And we've got, I think, some interesting faces. We've got the returning drivers, the likes of Sam Coiter and Nathan Del Carmen, who made their way to the finals, Joey. But we've also got some drivers who just missed out on qualifying for that first event. But they'll be here and hungry to make a bit of a statement.
It's your second chance, and it's not your last chance as well. So there may be some drivers who missed out on this event. We'll see them once the next event rolls around. They can only hope. But everybody going to be very, very hungry here. A short pace lap, only a few corners to warm up these tires. These are famously hard tires, famously cold tires. There's no downforce. You want to get as much heat into these things as possible once we get to lap 1 in a couple of moments.
I've got to ask, where do you think we're going to see more of the fighting? Is it going to be up towards the front, or is it going to be for that 10th position, knowing that the finishing order is going to matter here?
I don't know, but the action's starting already. I think the leader's trying to pull away instantly.
And so immediate jump with the pace car off and away. Henry Moore doesn't want to wait, and the draft gets fed to the field behind as we go racing once again in the Prodigy Racing League. It's side by side for third position. Kane Halliburton as well as Tom Katsadonis will settle into the rhythm. But now through that shortcut in through the second corner, a tidy start through the field sees all 20 working their way into the middle sector.
These are critical moments right now. It's going to be difficult to pass all race long. You're going to want to take track position when you can, and you see people throwing haymakers like Matt Caruana to the inside, to the hairpin in that 17. Can't make the move on Stephen Diem, but he certainly stuck his nose in there. That's what you're going to see for the entirety of this lap, still side by side through the second hairpin.
And they're costing each other some time here. Off into the grass goes Caruana, but he will settle back into 7th spot. Already 1.2 seconds separates the top 4 from that battle for 5th on back. Maybe they won't fight too much at the front. Kane Halliburton pulls out of the draft, in fact, I think, not wanting to get too close in towards turn number 1. It's going to be all I think about now, inside of that top 10, how hard they're going to go. Caruana back up the inside.
Trying to get himself some highlight time here. Dives it back to the inside of Bob Beekman. He's going to be on the inside here of turn number 2. It's not a corner that's easy to go side by side through. It's not necessarily a cambered corner at all. The outside doesn't work very well, and Beekman can't hold on. Caruana's through, and he's under pressure now from Matt Adams. You see, I think Felipe Cabrera Loyola looking out to the inside as well. There's just these little checkups that open the door into the hairpins, and if you get an opportunity to go for an overtake, you have to go for it. You can't afford to hold back.
Yeah, Loyola's been able to work his way forward a position to be inside of 9th, which is, I think, where you want to be. A little bit more comfortable than where Jeffrey Lund is in the 10th spot, you can see on the left side of the screen the green line to underpin the top 10 that will advance on to the final. Top 4 continue to slightly break away. You're still seeing Halliburton just pop his way out of that draft, but we're seeing how difficult it is to fight in towards the opening corner once again. Big defense offered from a couple of cars, and now the long way around for Thomas O'Regan in the fight for 10.
Not easy here. There we go. Felipe Cabrera-Loyola back on the inside. Then it becomes the inside of the next corner. Felipe not able to hang on. It's so difficult with the switchbacks here. You're on the inside one corner. You're on the outside the next corner. Thomas O'Regan, though, looks perfectly calm riding behind this little battle here. He sees them all go and not calm anymore as the 39 of Jeffrey Lund almost goes around.
This is where we want to see the heart rate data as well. This is where Dr. Nick Molinaro will be assessing their psychology come Prodigy week, and almost 3 wide off the corner, but this is outside of the top 10. These are drivers that can't afford to squabble with one another. They need to work together to be able to close. Look how close that they get, almost contact off the corner, and now a 600-meter run in towards the first corner. Jack Harrison in virtual reality is looking around for a bit of clean air.
Big fan of the green screen behind. Maybe somebody at home can have some fun with that. He's trying to have some fun with Toby Soriano. Nathan Saxon, no fun for him there, though. Huge save. Luckily, you are at such low speeds in these cars that you can save a wiggle like that, but it is so difficult to do so, and he is going to be very, very unhappy back in 16th now.
And you mentioned as well, no downforce really aerodynamically. You are sliding this car so much of the time, and it's balancing how much temperature you're putting in the tires versus how much speed you can extract from the car. Once again, they'll be door to door, side by side as they funnel through that penultimate sector of the lap. At the front, it's still calm, but they are being slightly caught in the top 4 by Steven Diem as they now settle into the rhythm for 5th on back. We are very much watching where they are battling the hardest. Jack Harrison and Blaze Andrich battling for the final spots as well.
Every single spot is going to matter, even if you are fighting for 16th, 17th, for example. That might not be close to the top 10, but if there is some drama up front, if there is a little bit of chaos, you might end up moving your way forward. So every single spot is going to matter, no matter where you are. But up front, Kane Halliburton still stalking the back of Henry Moore, the 41 and the 14. No real attempts at a move seen just yet. I think they're just happy to ride in line for the moment. There's a move for 5th, though. Matt Caruana dives to the inside of Steven Diem.
I think that was a mistake from the 13, and Caruana now in 5th position, 1.7 off the back of the top 4, has some work to do. There's been a swap inside of that top 10 as well. Jeffrey Lund is now down in 12th. Thomas O'Regan has cycled up into a final spot. Nathan Del Carmen just outside. Nathan Del Carmen was one that I kind of circled coming into this because looking at his record, he qualified 4th in his semi-final in Event 1, finished 9th, just squeaked into the final. Qualified 4th again, was only able to finish 4th. I was wondering what he was going to do. He's now got to try and hold off Lund while trying to close that gap to O'Regan as well.
Sounds easy when you say it like that. Got to do 2 completely different things at once. But it's easy in one way because Matt Adams has started to pull away a little bit in 9th. The battle for 10th has sort of become its own thing. Unless Thomas O'Regan can catch back up to Matt Adams, he's got the ultimate challenge right now of holding back basically the entire back half of this field from stealing his 10th place spot. He's got the number 1 car behind him, a great qualifier with a ton of speed. He's got Carmen in his name. That's the song they play on F1 podiums. That's got to mean something for speed, and he's got a huge task behind him.
Seeing a bit of a mix-up at the front of the order as well, where it is now Katsudonis that is behind Sam Koiter. Here's a replay slightly further behind in towards turn number 1. There's going to be cars leaning on one another, and that's why Camden Hibbett is back in the pit lane. By the way, in the live pictures, look at that side-by-side into the second corner. And Steven Diem, I think, is going to almost slide his way off the track, but just about holds on to it and holds on to 7th.
Remember what I said about Thomas O'Regan being comfortable in 10th? Well, that has changed entirely. With a little bit of contact and with some mistakes like that, Steven Diem suddenly within touching distance of Felipe Cabrera-Loyola, and then you see Thomas O'Regan, Matt Adams, everybody back into this train, and suddenly that battle on the cut line becomes much, much more dicey. There's one little bobble like that, with how close the field is and how much of a rhythm track this is. You make one mistake, especially in the first sector, you're going to be struggling for half the lap, and you're going to be losing a lot more than just one spot.
The other thing to consider is race control is going to have their say at the end of the race, and so you don't want to get yourself into trouble over the course of the 25 minutes, because as we saw in Event 1 here on iRacing, the semi-final spots can be flipped around and drivers outside the top 10 can find their way to be promoted. Always great to be able to look at not one but two of the drivers. I believe we are looking at Henry Moore as well as Kane Halliburton as they cycle their way in through the final sector of the lap once again. You got Halliburton on the bottom right, who has got so much iRacing World Championship experience to his name. Henry Moore, 6,500 I rating, still brings plenty of speed, even if maybe not that World Championship experience.
Still a lot of speed, a lot of experience. It's interesting to see the difference in camera setups. It's two guys with very different approaches to FOVs, but two guys with very, very similar speed up at the head of the field. Kane Halliburton looks immensely focused right now. You don't see him looking to the inside or the outside. You don't see him attempting any dives. You see him riding, stalking, and learning. He's definitely waiting for a couple more minutes from now. He still sees that we have more than half of the race to go. No reason to go for any kind of dive and slow each other up and let Sam Coitert get in. Just ride in line and try and pull away.
Fastest lap of the race so far is a 54.897. That sits with Tom Katsudonis. Fastest lap of these two is a 54.952, which is on Halliburton's side. So, again, the fastest lap, the winner in each of our semi-finals determines the grid order effectively for tomorrow's final. The fastest driver will start on pole position, and that's why there's that little bit more focus. Kane Halliburton at least shows us what type of monitor setup he's got. He's running the triple screens, but of course you don't need this level of hardware to get started. Most of us start on G29s, or going back to the days of Hugo Luis and his World Championship, G25s are good enough as well.
I've got my G29 behind me. Producer Hugo Luis says thanks for the shout out. You know, G25 still going strong. I'm sure there's still some people out there who are still going very, very strong on there. Personally, my multiple-year-old sim racing equipment could use an upgrade, I think, but maybe that's what SimLab's for. Is we got to dive into the hairpin. Sam Coitert and Tom Katsudonis.
And it's Coitert now on the defense as he tries to hold on to the position. This is effectively fighting to start on the third row of tomorrow's final, as long as they keep it all clean. You've got Sam Coitert, the Urano driver, on the bottom right. Tom Katsudonis just alongside him as they swoop their way down through that final corner, 600 meters into the next braking zone. Sam Coitert finished the final in 12th position in Event 1 as Gustavo Ariel fought towards the front with the rest of the Urano contingent. It's going to be nice and easy for Katsudonis. He's back up into third.
I don't really like this fighting, though. Even though Katsudonis may be a little bit faster, these guys have been battling so hard they've lost a full second back up to Kane Halliburton. This has become a fight for third instead of a fight for the win. Neither of them look too unhappy about that. I think they still know there's a lot of racing left to go, but I would not be happy with that gap to the front. I talked to Sam Coitert before the race, said it's going to be very, very close. You need track position. You need to stay close if you want to move forward, and I don't think he's going to like that 2-second gap and another car in front of him.
Now, I believe Katsudonis is from Australia, which means, depending on which side of the country he's on, it's either 1:30 in the morning or it's 4:30 in the morning. No matter how you play it, it's early.
If it's 1:30 in the morning, there's still some good hours left in the night. Could be worse. You see Sam Coitert to the outside of him. Not really a place you can go for an overtake unless you're going for a switchback like he is here. To the inside of the Australian, into the double apex hairpin. Inside's better here, and Coitert clear back up into third. But again, losing 4 more tenths up to the leaders. There's going to be a 3-second gap here soon.
You can see Caruana's closing. You can see Beekman, Diem, Loyola. They're all in that train behind, and so if they're going to swap like this, like they're at Indianapolis, they're going to have to do it on the main straight and be a bit more efficient with it. Moore and Halliburton showing that maybe it is faster just to stay in line and run as they are. In terms of that cutoff to get into our finals, to finish in the top 10, Matt Adams currently has a pretty solid lock on that spot. Nathan Del Carmen is 1.5 seconds back, still has some work to do to be able to make it to 2 consecutive finals in the Prodigy Racing League.
We've seen gaps like that completely diminish over the course of the first couple of laps. We thought Thomas O'Regan was basically entirely in control of that P10 spot, and that changed very, very quickly as he got one spot and suddenly Matt Adams is on the cut line. We see him in his sim rig. Very interesting to see the placements of people's sim rigs. Some people have their own little room. Some people have a whole studio. He's under the staircase, all the same. Works very well. He sees 4 cars in front of him. He wants to climb the stairs a little bit, move a few more steps forward in the field, and have a little bit more of a buffer behind him, because it's not comfortable being in that 10th place spot.
I think Matt is someone that is also quite familiar with the different disciplines here available on iRacing, has branched out and done rallycross in the past as well. This sort of slidey race car maybe works quite well for his sort of driving style, but ultimately he's in a good spot. Can't afford to compromise each other here with the fighting like we're seeing for third, and bring those in behind in this quest to make it into tomorrow's final, where ultimately the drivers must first place themselves before they can go and battle for the prizes that are on the line. Couple of cars further up in the queue, going a little bit wide. The other thing that I'm just noting, riding on board with Matt, is this is why you map advisor tear off on iRacing.
I was going to say the same exact thing. Come on, Matt, give us a tear off. I mean, it's going to be gray by the time this battle's over. He's getting 5 cars worth of rubber spat in his face, but he might be too focused. He might be he's in the zone right now, but I think it would be nice for us if we could see clearly. So Matt, if you're watching, you know, hit that minus button. I got it mapped on my wheel.
I don't actually know if his tear-off state matches what we see, but that would be even cooler. Up at the front, still very close between Halliburton and Moore, within a 1/10 of a second in the braking zones, but still no moves being offered. It's 3 seconds back to Koiter Katsudonis, who are now very much in a train with Caruana. Beekman yet to be able to bridge the gap as well. 12 minutes left to go with lap times under 55 seconds. We've still got 13 laps or so with which maybe we can see a move here at the front.
Lots of time for racing, lots of time to keep studying and keep preparing the move. Kane Halliburton has so much experience in so many different types of racing here on iRacing that he's not just riding behind because he can't make the move. He knows where and when he wants to make the move right now. He is just very, very strategically hanging back. He knows that he doesn't have to go for any kind of move right now, because he can see back in 3rd and 4th what Sam Koitert and Katsudonis and Caruana are doing. They are holding each other up. They are losing the pack. There's no reason to do that if you're in this comfortable position, and he is going to continue to ride behind for probably 10 more minutes. It's not the most exciting thing to see from the outside, but when he wins the race, it's going to be all worth it.
Yeah, sometimes races play out like this, and then you get a really exciting end. At least that's what we're kind of hoping for. I will say, by the way, Henry Moore told us that started iRacing about 3.5 months ago. He got up to 5K iRating in 2 months. If he's been working by himself, imagine what he could do. Even if he doesn't win the Prodigy Pass, he's definitely a contender in the Prodigy Search Committee, you'd think.
Absolutely. How many races would that have to be per day? Getting 5,000 iRating in 2 months.
I mean, find out.
I probably did the same amount of races when I first got iRacing a couple of years ago, but I went up and down and up and down and up and down, and I was probably at about 4,000 less iRating than he was. So you've got to be a whole nother species of driver to do something like that, and that's why this competition exists. We want to get people with that level of skill, that level of commitment into real-life race cars, into those big opportunities in the real world. Because it's great to be successful at sim racing. There's something to be said about a real race car, though.
Exactly. It's about giving the opportunities to those that are deserving, and I'll just remind everyone that the next Racing Prodigy tournament is going to be over on Race Room. Head over to racingprodigy.com to learn a little bit more, and don't forget to head over to our YouTube channel as well to stay connected to everything. Henry Moore has done, you don't even want to know how many races this year. Give me a guess.
I assume it's not in the quadruple digits, but I'm going to go 704.
That would be quite remarkable. We're just past the halfway mark of the year. He's at almost 500 races.
I mean, that's pretty close.
I think we're going to see a swap around, by the way, for third, because I saw Koiter, Caruana, and Katsudonis almost go 3 wide into turn 1. And indeed, a bit of a change, but not for third. It's Caruana that slots in front of the Australian Katsudonis. And now, to your point, Joey, the fighting that we saw from Koiter and Katsudonis, it's brought Caruana into the mix.
And it's sort of become a different race now, because even though they have lost the leaders, when the gap was about 2 seconds, 3 seconds, they might have held out a little bit of hope that they might be able to bring that gap down. That's not the case anymore. It's 4 seconds, basically. This has become essentially a fight for the lead. So they're going to go all out here, send as many moves as they want, go for as many switchbacks as they want, because they know they're not catching the leaders unless they crash into each other. So might as well go all out here. Can't afford to hold anything back, because this is the difference between starting maybe 5th, 6th, or 7th, or something like that. Something math-wise there. Tom Katsunonis not going for the move into turn 1 this time, sending a nose to the inside. Little bit of a peek, but not able to go for anything yet unless he can send it through there. Nope, nothing doing into turn 2.
Got to be careful from the challengers potentially behind. Just look how much lateral slide there is and lateral momentum through the rear before they get onto the throttle, because Bob Beekman, who is really Peter Beekman, but because of the way that iRacing works, it uses the payment account, and so Peter Beekman uses Dad's credit card, Bob Beekman, to pay for the account. 17 years old back there, another young driver looking for an opportunity to work on forward. They are fighting 9th and 10th position, just as we continue to track that fight for 3rd. Gotta be careful here. Nathan Del Carmen has caught. We may see a fight for the final spot in the final.
Is quite the train here, 9th and 10th. It's a little bit like the park bench because it's Matt and Tom, but Nathan Del Carmen in the train now. Jeffrey Lund joining the fray as well. It is a 7-car battle for 1 spot. That's not an ideal situation to be in, but it is kicking off here. Steven Diem side by side with Loyola for the moment, and then a little bit further back, Toby Soriano on Jeffrey Lund. Nathan Del Carmen trying to ride here. It is crazy stuff back here, and I do have to give a shout out to Toby Soriano. Started dead last in this race, didn't get a legitimate qualifying lap in, made a mistake on his fast lap, and he has done nothing but drive his way forward here. And at the head of this little train here, he's only got a second up to Jeffrey Lund. He could be in conversation for an advancement spot.
Yes, but I went through and I did some statistics about the first Prodigy Racing event, Prodigy Racing League event that we had here on iRacing. The most that anyone gained in their first semi-final, or in their semi-final, was 8 positions. You can't really leave yourself with too much work the later into the race that you get in towards the opening corner. That was a big lunge, and I think what we are going to be tracking in officially the train for 6th on back, but realistically, it's all about Matt Adams versus Nathan Del Carmen right now.
There was a little bit of contact there between Matt Adams and Thomas O'Regan there coming into the braking zone. It wasn't anything terrible, but you could see a little bit of bobble out of the 15. He got a little bit out of shape there into the hairpin. Nothing, no contact there, so Matt Adams hanging back a little bit more this time, giving him a little bit more room, but everything is being thrown at everything right now, if that's even physically possible. Matt Adams, the Canadian, Thomas O'Regan, the American, into turn 1 next time. See how close they get this time.
So you got Nathan Del Carmen again, finished 4th in our first iRacing tournament here. He's looking to try and work his way on forward after testing some spec Miatas, but yet to actually go out there and race. Look at the bottom corner of your screen and just watch that fight for 4th position. Katsudonis and Matt Caruana, who have been slightly dropped by Sam Coyton as they go side by side at the front of this train. Again, just focus on this battle for 10th effectively, because if it kicks off in front, it promotes a whole bunch of drivers back up into the mix, and we're coming down to the wire, almost 5 minutes left to go.
They are going to be fighting at the head of this train. Felipe Cabrera and Peter Beekman, shout out to Bob as well. They are going to be going at it here because they're not comfortable either. If Felipe gets loses one single spot, if Steven Diem gets by him, that could put him on the outside in a bad spot and have him fall all the way to the back of this train. So every single driver on this field is really, really trying to hang on.
One thing that we don't have to worry about too much today, Joey, is an incident limit as much, because we did have some drivers run afoul of that in our first tournament, but that was in a GR86, which you can make a bit more contact in.
Yeah, you can make contact in that car, and you can kind of afford to go off the track a little bit more if you extend the track limits a little bit. There's no extending track limits here at Okayama. You got grass and gravel to the outside, and if you do make contact, it's going to be wheel-to-wheel, suspension-to-suspension contact. You're rarely getting away with that without your car basically being upside down and buried in the ground. So it's self-punishing. That's good.
Bit of a send in that bottom corner of your screen as now we cycle in through the final sector. Are we going to be 2 and 3 wide as we head towards the line? It's Steven Diem, who said he might be one of the oldest participants in the competition. Was part of the GT Academy going all those years back. Seems quite apt, given the Gran Turismo movie is right around the corner. He will be challenged by Loyola into the opening corner, side by side, inside of the top 10, but they're not squabbling for that 10th spot yet.
is exactly what I mentioned, though. Felipe Cabrera going to be on the outside here into the double hairpin. That's going to let Thomas O'Regan get to his inside. It's going to become his outside through this flat-out left-hander here, but it's going to become the inside again. Fantastic exit from Thomas O'Regan. Still looking as calm as ever as he's going to be to the inside into the hairpin. Later on the brake, slides it a little bit of a lockup, a little bit of smoke. He's got it, but it's going to be another switchback. Felipe back to the inside. Thomas not giving it up. He's going to have a run to the outside. It's been side by side for a full lap.
And now we've got that change for 10th. Nathan Del Carmen is in front of Matt Adams. Remember, there's no prizes on the line today, just a spot in tomorrow's 20-car final and the race to be able to win a Prodigy pass in towards the opening corner once again. But now, with that swap having happened, surely Matt Adams, who is a Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada champion, is going to be on the offense.
He's going to have to be on the offense here. He's only got 3 laps to go here at the line, if my calculations are correct. So, running out of time, I expect potentially a dive here coming into the hairpin. Out of this flat-out left-hander, you need to get a good run here if you want to make a move into the hairpin. He did not get that good run. He's nowhere near close enough to go for a dive. Has to hang back for one more sequence of corners. Lets the nose be seen to the inside. Gets a little bit of a bobble out of Nathan Del Carmen, and that could open the door for him with a little bit of contact.
It's all being triggered because Steven Diem's going very defensive on Thomas O'Regan, and it's very much checking up those behind. Through the final corner, best passing opportunity into turn number 1, especially if the car in front runs into the gravel. Del Carmen makes the mistake, and Adams maybe pops out of the draft just that little bit too early. Into the opening corner, he's going to have to go deep, he's going to have to go brave, but Del Carmen on the outside will try and carry the momentum through turn number 2.
This car has very, very good brakes. It's a little bit like a go-kart race with the sends you can send. And there goes Matt Adams through the left-hander. Remember, though, Nathan Del Carmen got a great run out of this corner on the previous lap. Does exactly the same thing this time. He's going to be back to the inside, into the hairpin. The battle continues. Matt Adams not able to hang on to 10th for very long. He's going to try and stick it back to the inside of the hairpin here. But the outside, very, very effective. They're interlocking wheels, and Nathan Del Carmen still fighting it.
Oh, but he's going to be almost pushed off into the grass now, into the final corner. On entry, they all get it sorted out. These Formula 4s really race well, and it's why they use in the real world to test the racecraft and the mettle of young drivers on the climb. We do the same here in the virtual world as well. Can Jeffrey Lund join the fight? 3 abreast into the opening corner. It's going to be Del Carmen in the number 1 machine the long way around. Lund now trying to gum up the inside and maybe get the 2-for-1 special. Matt Adams in the all-white machine might be hung out to dry on the outside.
And look at the car 4th in line in this train. Toby Soriano from the back of the grid. If these 3 take each other out, which they very well could, he could be coming into the top 10 here. Almost 3 wide down the back straight, looking for every inch of track. Not happening. No changes yet. Matt Adams still hanging on, but Jeffrey Lund sends a Jeffrey lunge to the inside of the hairpin. It looks like a pace lap right now through the final sector.
It is just a parking lot right now, effectively. It's almost rush hour traffic. You can see how much time they've lost to the cars in front, but really now it's just one spot that they're all fighting for. Is it Lund? Is it going to be Adams? We'll get a bit of a sense of the drag race that they may have on their very final lap of the race, which is going to be the next one. White flag is in the air, and Henry Moore is about half a lap away from punching his way to the final.
But this is what I was talking about. At the bottom of your screen, Kane Halliburton has waited so long to make this move. Has he waited too long? Does he have an opportunity on this lap to go for it? He's only got a few more corners to go, but the fight for this transfer continues. I think they could be 3 wide down the back straight. They are. And the number 1 in Nathan Del Carmen is in a terrible spot, 4th in line.
Look at the madness as they all fight for that one final spot. It's Jeffrey Lund that has the advantage at the front, though. Oh, it's a punch of the fist. There's some emotion on the face of Henry Moore, who knows he might be starting in the best spot possible come tomorrow's final. Kane Halliburton pushed, but it wasn't going to be enough. And now the drag race to the line. Jeffrey Lund has got the advantage. The draft being fed behind, but it should be enough for the 39 machine to hold on to a spot in tomorrow's final.
What a titanic battle there to the finish, and I know it's only the top 10 that advance, but Toby Soriano's got to get some plaudits there. 1 spot away from making the finals from the back of the grid. I believe that broke the record you mentioned, Arjuna. 9 spots from a grid spot. Might not be advancing into the finals today, but take a bow. Take a bow, Soriano.
it's another impressive drive through the field for us to be able to witness, but for Henry Moore, gotta look into the eyes. Job's not done by any means, and his lap time of a 54.753. Just note that down. That's now what we've got to compare against the winner of the second semi-final to figure out who will be starting on the pole position. But wow, what a race at the back. Maybe a little less hectic at the front, but great to see Kane Halliburton really put the pressure onto Henry Moore. The two drivers out of the UK, half a second between the two. Sam Coiter is going to be in back-to-back finals here on iRacing in the Prodigy Racing League, while Tom Katsudon is just in front of Matt Caruana. Felipe Cabrera Loyola in 6th, with Bob Beekman / Peter Beekman, Stephen Diem, Thomas O'Regan, and Jeffrey Lund, the 10 that will advance to tomorrow's final, pending any race control intervention. Toby Soriano, may he get a couple more spots of race control sides in his direction? Well, he's 11, they will be hoping. A photo finish with him and Matt Adams, who in frustration left the session almost immediately after the checkered flag. Nathan Del Carmen misses out, along with Michael Sikorsky, Jack Harrison, Yannick Plescher, Nathan Saxon, Jonathan Smith, Blaze Andrich, and the only DNF, Camden Hibbert, who was in the wall on the outside of turn number 1. Well, my goodness, take a bit of a breath, and now hopefully we can get the chance to chat with a couple of the drivers. Henry Moore was so ultra impressive in that race, absorbing the pressure, Joey, from someone that has competed at the iRacing World Championship level.
Indeed, and I'm honestly kind of shocked at the way that battle developed, because I really thought that once those final couple of laps came in, we would see Kane Halliburton go for a chance at a move, but he never got the opportunity to, and that is just a surprising finish.
And of course, like we were saying earlier, still got one more semi-final to come before we can set the grid of 20 that will compete tomorrow. We'll grab a chat with the winner and maybe a couple more drivers out of that first semi-final in a few moments. We saw that it is difficult to pass, Joey, but if you do decide to fight, you're putting yourself in a bit of danger.
It is difficult to pass, but it is very, very possible to pass. You do have to balance that with the fact that if you do try to pass, you're likely going to be side by side for about half of the lap around this place, and you're going to be losing so much time. So hopefully everybody in this second semifinal has been watching that first semifinal. I hope they enjoyed the action, and I hope they've learned some valuable lessons that maybe you don't want to go for the opportunities too early. I know you want to go for the passes because it's tough to pass, but you want to keep yourself within a shot of the win.
Is there a bit of an advantage to also be in the second semi-final? Because we know the time that the winner of the first semi-final is set, 54.753. If the driver that wins the second semi-final is able to go faster on the final lap of the race, they start in pole position. And we saw what a big jump that Henry Moore got when the pace car pulled off and away.
It's always difficult to be in that position, though, because you know the time you're chasing. So if you are a little bit slower and you are in the race lead, do you push that little bit harder to go for the fastest lap and go for pole tomorrow and then maybe make a mistake and lose that position in the first place? It's going to be a delicate balancing act up front, but hopefully, honestly, we've got multiple cars in the battle for the lead, and you can't really afford to think about the fastest lap because you're too busy fighting for the lead.
Let's have a quick chat with our semi-final 1 winner, Henry Moore. Henry, I mean, we were looking at your iRacing profile during that race and remarking almost 500 starts in 2023. How have you progressed so quickly here on iRacing? Where does the speed all come from?
Well, as you can see, it's just laps on laps on laps. I mean, started around March. Well, that's when I re-got my subscription. And yeah, I just did loads of laps and got up to pace, which is obviously helping me get the win today. So I'm really happy about the win.
So you'll start on the front row tomorrow. What have you kind of learned from today, seeing the pressure from behind, that might help you come tomorrow's racing?
Well, yeah, there wasn't too much of a fight because I know Kane and I both wanted to get through to the finals, but I'm expecting a bigger fight tomorrow from everyone behind.
How are you enjoying the combo? We take out half the lap here at Okayama, but it's a track I'm sure you've raced at plenty. I saw that you've done, what was it, 170 F1600 starts just this season alone, so you're familiar with the car as well.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite car. I'm really enjoying it. It's not a track I've driven a lot compared to others, but again, I'm not too unfamiliar with it. But yeah, it's quite hard to overtake, which makes it quite nerve-wracking when you're in the lead because you never know what's going to happen behind. But yeah, really fun race. The combo's good to drive. So yeah, just happy really.
Well, we'll see how things go for you in tomorrow's final. Hopefully we get the chance to catch up once again. Congratulations, Henry, the winner of our first semi-final.
Thanks.
So that was a quick chat with our race winner, Henry Moore, and now we get set for the second of our semi-finals. He said that he felt like Kane was going to work with him. I saw some comments in the chat there. But that's what has changed compared to our first iRacing tournament, is the fact that the grid order is determined effectively by the results out of our semi-final.
Yeah, so you need those positions. So Kane Halliburton, I'm trying to think about his mindset right now, sitting there in second. Was he giving it his all to go for the win, to start on potential pole tomorrow, to start in the front row? Or was he just hanging back saying, you know what, third or fourth is fine, that's good for tomorrow? I don't know. Maybe we'll have to talk to him at the end of the night, but we'll see how his mindset changes in the next 24 hours.
We've been talking a lot about Racing Prodigy and what this E-to-Real pathway means. Let's learn a little bit more about someone that's been involved in this journey for a long, long time. Our CEO at Racing Prodigy, David Cook.
Hi everyone, I'm David Cook from Racing Prodigy. We've been asked why we created the Prodigy Racing League, which is the world's first E-to-Real motorsports league. Someone told me that racing doesn't need another series, but we don't agree. It needs one more, and it needs it now. Racing needs a series that's open to everyone, regardless of one's bank account or connections. A series where driving skill is the only differentiator. So why is the world's first E-to-Real motorsports league the solution to the access problem? Well, advancements in gaming and simulation software have helped prove that the skill sets from racing games translate to real race cars. Nissan demonstrated this several years ago. Mazda was next, when I proudly oversaw its shootout competitions in which sim racers competed against real-world racers for a professional contract. And when iRacing's Glenn McGee won one of the competitions, it reinforced that gaming can help solve the access challenges. Only about 1 million people race in real life, and there are more than 3 billion gamers. Some of the fans and some of the gamers who watch professional racing on screen must have more born with talent than those they're watching, but have never gotten the opportunity to race themselves. And we know that when sports, talent, and opportunity meet, this is how you discover prodigies. And this is why we partnered with several game publishers, with more on the way, and why companies are teaming up with us to provide opportunity to those deserving. Why thousands, and we anticipate millions, will enter our sim racing tournaments over time, and even more will watch our PRL, sim racing, and real-world racing competitions. Revolutionizing motorsports will require exceptional people and a courageous team. We've assembled a group with experience specifically for this E-to-Real league. Our team has previously supported Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, the NFL, NBA, gaming, as well as E-to-Real competitions. Our mission is to reinvent and open motorsports through gaming competitions, discover and develop talent, and provide sustainable, real-world racing careers for those who shine. It's past time that everyone has the opportunity to enjoy the thrill of racing. This is why we created the Prodigy Racing League.
And you mentioned, or rather David mentioned the name Glenn McGee. That is someone that is, of course, advising us here at the Prodigy Racing League and continues to race not just in the MX-5s in the real world, but in the Lamborghini Super Trofeos as well. So great to see him be very much a result of the E-to-Real pipeline and now able to help us carve the next generation of that as well. One semi-final done, 20 drivers whittled down to 10, and we get ready to do it again with a rather interesting set here, Joey, of drivers.
It's going to be a very interesting set of drivers here on race number 2. We've got the same combination of sort of drivers we know with World Championship experience from iRacing, drivers with maybe a little bit less experience and the same amount of skill, though. We saw that interesting dynamic with Henry Moore, one of the newest drivers at starting to move his way up into the top level, and Kane Halliburton, who's been around for so long. A mix of experience and inexperience, but all the speeds found the same way.
You can take a look once again at our driver wall. It's always great when we're able to peek behind the curtain and see what's going on in the world of the drivers. They're underway for qualifying right now, so you can see a couple of them pretty frenetically sawing away at the wheel. We saw just how important it was to maximize your track position, because we didn't necessarily get to see the drivers get the chance further back to work on forward, with the exception of Toby Soriano. Right now, in terms of qualifying, I don't think I'm too surprised to see two names at the top. Tamas Shimon competed in the Force Dynamics Solara iRacing Grand Prix Championship. The Hungarian got a podium to his name. Michael Romanidis has competed in F1 esports before, drives for Coanda Simsport. He's got 10,000 iRating. He's in second, 7,000 back.
That is crazy to see Michael Romanidis exactly 10,000 iRating. Not one more, not one less, exactly 10,000. You don't see that very often. And I imagine we won't see that for very often, because that's going to change very soon for him and get even higher. Ross Banfield, though, great lap from him to put himself up into P5. It's a little bit closer, half a second up and down the entirety of the field. There's still about half a second from first to 16th, but still 3 more drivers to come. I think it's going to be even closer up at the front of the field here. All the way at the back, this is the 333 of Hans Jakobsen, Sivertsen, Mollet. Got to pick which of those 4 names we're going to say. Either ways. At the back of the field, maybe going to do a Toby Soriano here in 5 minutes.
By the way, in terms of drivers in this second semi-final that returned from our first iRacing tournament, Michael Romanidis was eliminated in the semi-finals along with Luca Becker. Ross Banfield as well as Vlad Kimichev advanced to the final. Sam Smith, another one that was unable to advance on forward. That was not going to be a valid lap there for the 333, but Jordan Kelly was on his first valid attempt. He's gone up to 7 spots, still has 1 more crack. Vlad Kimichev has just rolled out there for qualifying, so there are 2 drivers that we need to keep our eye on.
Indeed, still 4 minutes to go, so if you want to wait as long as humanly possible, you can still have about a minute to wait in the pits. Hope that the track temp maybe gets a little bit cooler, and just wait a little bit longer. But we ride on board here through the final corner, flat out, and then get ready to set up a lap here. Carry as much speed as humanly possible. Try and hit the apex on the inside, and then you can go very far to the left there. Just have to make sure you don't clip the gravel. You can stay on the curb and stay on the green there, and it counts as a lap. But firing into turn 1, no real braking marker here for Vlad Kimichev. You have to look at the tire marks of your ancestors to get it slowed down, hit the apex, and then full throttle as soon as humanly possible. And you kind of want to miss the apex here of the first part of the corner. You can go a little bit wide there to set up for the second 90-degree corner, and then from there, you are full throttle left-hander down the back straight into the hairpin. You're going to want to brake as late as humanly possible, even later than you think you can, because you can get this car slowed down very effectively. Hit the first apex, then throw the car to the left as far as possible so you can hit this second apex on the hairpin. Full throttle. You can get full throttle so early in these cars. And a short little straight here to the final full throttle corner of the lap. Don't clip the inside curb there. And then a little bit of braking, sending it to the apex. And then, as I said, full throttle as far to the left as you can. Don't clip the gravel. And that is a beautiful lap of this track at Okayama Short. And Vlad Kimichev going to bring it across the line. Not good enough for pole.
And Jordan Kelly has gone to pole, and it is by 5,000ths of a second. Vlad Kimichev is down there in 17th spot. He's going to have a lot of work to do to work his way forward. But give a shout out to Jordan Kelly with what is a ultra competitive time. 1:10 splits the top 5 here, Joey.
One singular tenth. It is so very, very close, and I think we're going to see a similar thing to what we saw in the previous race for about 3rd, 4th, and 5th, but we're going to see it for the lead instead. Everybody packed together, everybody so close. And I'm not counting out Vlad Kimichev for being able to be up there with him. He's on his second lap here through the final couple of corners. I think we know he's one of the fastest drivers in the field. We know he's got quite a bit of experience here, so we'll see if he can improve on lap number 2. Ross Banfield still out here for some more practice himself as well.
Yeah, Kimichev still has that chance to improve at the line, so we'll keep you abreast of his time as he makes his way to the checkered flag in the session. He is going to find an improvement, and it's going to be to 6, so an important lap there, Joey, to be able to give himself less work to do in the semi-final.
And that's more where I would expect him to be. I did not expect him to be a driver who would be about half a second off the pace. And he definitely found that extra speed there on lap number 2. Ross Banfield going to look for him to move his way forward as well from 7th. Lots and lots of drivers here with lots of experience and lots of speed. But Jordan Kelly, kind of the underdog, putting himself up on the top here in that number 99. He's sort of the Henry Moore of this split. We'll see if he can hang on.
Got one driver missing, by the way, Nick Armstrong. He's another of the contingent from Australia. There's quite a few from down under. And I did see there was some confusion in time zones from one, maybe waking up a bit earlier or later than they should have. So that's going to be something that maybe caught out at least one driver, Nick Armstrong, as mentioned, going to be missing in action. Pack racing. It's something that, Joey, demands racecraft rather than sometimes technical mastery of a track.
And it's so difficult to have racecraft here because these cars are so fragile. They've got wheels basically sticking out from the tub on little spikes of suspension. So you can interlock wheels, but if you make a little bit of contact, you are basically going to be flipping yourself, destroying multiple cars. You have to be so careful, so knowledgeable about the limits of your car. It's one of the most difficult cars to have racecraft in. You don't have bumpers. You just got to be respectful.
We'll take a look at our pole position winner because he is in virtual reality. Jordan Kelly. You can see him with, I think that's a keyboard with a trackpad, just getting set for the race with the seconds ticking down. Sun coming in from over the shoulder. Virtual reality must be quite good, Joey, in this car in particular, to be able to figure out the different references as you're battling in the pack.
It's a good thing to have because you can see the cloud of cars around you, and also with so many sort of late apexes on this track, especially in those two hairpins in the second half of the lap, it's very, very good to have virtual reality. You can look to the left, look to the right, lean like you're in a go-kart. I think that's very, very conducive to lap time.
So the Irishman is on pole, a 55.330. And again, remember, it's the winner's fastest lap that determines who's on pole for tomorrow's race. They've got to best of 54.753. Tamas Shimon will line up alongside the Hungarian out of the United Kingdom in iRacing, with Michael Romanidis, the Coanda esports driver, inside of Dino Felipa, who will be on his Porsche Esports Super Cup qualifying duties just after this. Evan Pikul and then Vlad Kimichev will line up on the next row of the grid, with Ross Banfield and Ewan Baker 7th and 8th positions. Marcelo Padicha and then Ciro Sambra will round out the top 10 just inside of the bubble, but we saw plenty of shake-up inside the top 10 in semi-final 1. Jason Smith and then Lewis Barlow will share row 6, while hopefully not unlucky 13th for Sam Smith, as he hopes to make his first final on the second time of asking. Radek Kvitz in 14th, Luke Mitchinson and Luca Becker 15th and 16th, with David Brown, Austin Jackson within half a second of the pole position, and Hans Mollets, the final driver in the 19-car field, getting stacked up behind the iRacing pace car and getting ready to roll. Definitely feel like we're going to see more fighting up towards the front, but realistically, surely the drivers, Joey, recognize that they cannot afford to get too embroiled in the fighting. And just a reminder to follow the Prodigy Racing League across of social media.
All those social media accounts, you will see the tales of the past, and you'll understand that you really need to focus on the grand scheme of the race. It's a 25-minute race, so it's not the longest race in the world, but it's also not the shortest race in the world. There's a lot of time to catch back up if you're on the back foot. There's a lot of time to lose time if you are fighting too hard deeper in the field. So everybody hopefully has been learning from the previous race, learning from everything else that has gone on here over the course of the weekend, and taking those strategies into race time and trying to keep themselves in this lead pack for as long as possible.
And I've learned my lesson as well. As soon as the pace car goes, are we going to see Jordan Kelly scamper for the hills? No. It's going to be a bit more of a controlled start to the second semi-final here in our second Prodigy Racing League tournament on iRacing. The third Prodigy Pass is up for grabs tomorrow. 10 drivers from this second semi-final will fight for that prize. In towards turn 1 at Okayama. Will go 2 wide for third, almost 3 wide behind them for 5th position. It's going to be tentative for some, aggressive for others, as Kelly leads them in towards the shortcut at turn 2. Romanidis and Simon will be door-to-door and almost banging wheels, and it's going to be Romanidis that fires it up the inside and gets on through. Going to be Tamas Shimon settling into line and realizing there's plenty of racing over the 25 minutes still to come.
Everybody just trying to resolve themselves here, get back in line. You saw Vlad Kimichev to the inside of Evan Pikul there into the second hairpin, becomes the outside, a little bit wide for Kimichev. I don't think he expected the tires to be as cold as they were. Gets a little bit wide, and that's going to let the 12 get back to his inside here through the penultimate corner. Not good to still be side by side this late in the lap. Kimichev knows that, and he gets back in line.
And at the end of the first lap, it is going to once again see a bit of a breakaway, but not as pronounced as before. A car gets almost taken into the wall, back in the field, too wide, too deep into the opening corner, inside of the top 10 though. These drivers not hanging about compared to what we saw before. It's going to be Kimichev that's trying to hold on and fend off the challenges, not just alongside, but from behind as well. And it's now in through turn 3 that finally it settles out. Pakul maybe has grabbed 5th.
Seeing some similar separation here. The battle for 5th, 3 wide into the hairpin now as Jason Smith sends it to the inside, and that's not going to work. They all make contact. Kimichev and Pakul around.
And that is a major contender out in the form of Kimichev, someone that finished the first iRacing final in 3rd position. Plenty of dramas for him, riding on board with Roth Banfield coming to the end of the 2nd lap. And now it means that Ewan Baker sits in the catbird seat. He cycles in front of Lewis Barlow, though, to 9th.
Opens the door for a lot of drivers who maybe didn't think they would be in contention for the top 10 starting in the back of the field, but now suddenly so many more drivers in this battle for the cut line. You see basically back from Ciro Zambra in P6 all the way back to Austin Jackson in P17. They're all in this train, but it looks like nobody's learned their lesson because we're 3 wide again into turn 2.
Oh, and Barlow's going to get hung out to dry. He's still on the outside, but it switches back to the inside. He'll hold 11th spot and maybe run Luca Becker out of room. Plenty more drama in this one. They saw the first race and said the commentators need to lose their voices a little bit more. 3 wide once again, but it's not going to work out. Not just losing time now to those in front, but a couple of cars being pushed wide.
We're really getting the go-kart experience here. It's finally living up to the expectations of this combination. Lewis Barlow out of the top 10 now. Luca Becker, you saw Hans Mollet getting into a little bit of trouble, but let's see what happened into the hairpin initially here. Vlad Kimichev and Evan Pakul, the 2 outsiders of the 3 wide, and 3 wide into that corner very rarely works, and unfortunately for Vlad and Evan, they essentially became the cloud of cars intersected there.
It's not going to do much for them, but I would not be shocked if Race Control takes a look at that and couldn't quite pick out who was on the inside, but did seem to miss the apex by quite a bit. So, yeah, Race Control will take its look. The results that we talked through at the end, provisional, but it does mean that for the effectively 4 at the front once again, Kelly, Romanidis, Felipe, and Simon, there's not much incentive to fight, at least right now. Maybe the last 5 minutes as well, we'll see them start to duke it out, hopefully.
I would think that, but also I'm thinking back to the battle for the lead again in the previous race with Kane Halliburton. I was 100% sure that he was just hanging back a little bit, waiting for a better opportunity to go for the move, and then it never actually happened. So I don't know if Michael Romanidis here is going to have the same idea, or if he's going to decide to go for the move early because he saw what happened previously. You can actually see his hand movements in the background there. He has a mirror behind him, and that's actually very, very helpful because you can see what he has to do with this car. He's got to throw it around. There's a lot of micro adjustments in the middle of the corner. It's a car that rewards smooth driving, but it's also a car that rewards being able to muscle it around and throw it into the corners. And you can see, it might not look like it on his face, but he's giving it his all.
And I think the thing to note as well is Coanda, have a huge facility with which their regular main drivers compete out of. Michael Romanidis, a very different sort of a setup, but you can still be quick. Jordan Kelly picked up a bit of grass to the left-hand side. That car almost snapped out of control, but in these lower horsepower machines, you can save it. Romanidis does what we saw from Halliburton, pull out of the draft and stay in line for now.
It's a very interesting choice, but I don't know what he's going to do with this. Is he going to wait until maybe a little bit earlier, maybe 5 minutes to go or so to think about going for a move? Because you can hang back for all you want, but if you can't make the move for the win, you're going to be forced to start on row number 2 tomorrow, and you're going to have to do exactly the same thing over again. So do you want to get your track position now, or do you want to have to fight for it tomorrow? Personally, I'd be fighting for it now. I'd want to be as close to the front as possible, but Romanidis has all of this experience, 10,000 iRating worth of experience. He's got a plan. We'll see if it works out for him.
I think the thing for Romanidis as well is compared to the GR86, given his background mainly in open wheelers, this suits his driving style maybe a bit more, and so qualified 15th in a semi-final in the first iRacing tournament of the Prodigy Racing League, only finished 13th. A marked improvement in terms of that pace when the pressure was on. Inside top 10, by the way, for Sam Smith after just missing out on a final spot in the first iRacing tournament, but it's only 1 second back to Luca Becker, so it's not like there is a big margin with which to work.
Not a big margin at all. We've seen bigger margins come down in the previous race. We saw about a 3-second gap between 10th and 11th come down. Luca Becker here, he can see the car in front of him. That's all he really cares about right now. You can tell he's on a motion rig because his camera is shaking quite a bit. He's feeling all the bumps and all the curves of this track. You can see as he sends it into the corner, a little bit of a shaky. Not shaky inside the driver's seat, though. In full control right now. He's brought down 0.3 of a second to that gap to Sam Smith in about half a lap.
I don't think that's motion. I think that's just the classic too much feedback through the wheel being transmitted to the camera.
Yeah.
Although I would love to be proved wrong, because I wish we had more motion rigs.
Maybe it's an earthquake.
Yeah, that could be, but then he'd have bigger problems than where he sat right now in 11th spot, and without any draft effectively to close up to Sam Smith in that 55. Here's that front four, by the way, once again. Tamas Shimon really got jumped on the start, which is something to watch out for tomorrow, Joey, because you're only going to get one chance in the final.
You get one chance, one single race, a little bit longer than the race today. It's going to be, well, actually not longer at all. It's going to be 25 minutes still. So it's basically doing what you're doing today, but doing it with a more condensed field of drivers, the 20 best drivers over the course of today. It's going to be that much more difficult to make passes. It's going to be that much more difficult to put it on pole in the first place. It's going to get very, very intense. But Tamas Shimon in VR as well. Another interesting setup. He does have the triple monitors, so he can diversify. He can do whatever he wants. But today he said, you know what? I'm in VR. That's what works for me today. And it's working pretty well for him back in P4, pretty comfortable in the back half of this train, or in the back spot of this train.
Just working through some of the notes that the driver sent over to us. I just was reading for Jordan Kelly that representing VRA Racing, he's done some club racing in a Formula V, so he's got some experience, and also has had the chance to race Formula Ford, so he's not unfamiliar with this machine, and so curious maybe to talk to him at the end about how the real car compares to what he's seen out there in the virtual world. You can still see just 4 cars basically running to a metronome right now. After a crazy start, it's settled in. So I'm worried, Joey, what we're going to get at the end.
It is the calm before the storm, and Jordan Kelly hasn't really been calm, though, because you saw through the final corner a couple of moments ago there, he clipped the grass coming into the final corner. He's doing that at multiple places around this track. That's either the sign of a driver who's immensely comfortable with this combination, or the sign of a driver who may be a couple moments away from a massive mistake. I don't know which one it is. I assume it's the former because of the experience he has with this car in the real world. These cars are very popular in Ireland, I believe, and you can see these things over at Mallory Park and all sorts of places, so very experienced. Dino Filippa, though, another driver with similar amounts of experience, maybe even more experience, hunting, focused, and just watching what the two in front of him continue to do, which is a lot of nothing for the moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've quite figured out what the team name is, by the way, for Dino Filippa. Is it Team Whopper? Is it Team Whooper? Regardless of what it is, he is inside of the top 15 in the 2023 Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup qualifying series, so one step closer to a World Championship license. And looking up the inside of Michael Romaninis, it's an aggressive send from the Italian, who cycles forward with less than 10 minutes complete in the semi-final to second spot.
It was a whopper of a move. Well done, Dino Filippa, up into second. And he did it very, very smartly. He didn't end up side by side with Romanitis for about half a lap. Didn't lose a ton of ground to Jordan Kelly. Still well within draft range. Just a little bit of switching within the train. No harm, no foul there. And no loss to the leader. A little bit of a mistake into the hairpin, though, for Filippa. Is going to lose him a little bit more time. But I think he'll be able to get back into the rhythm here. And he is still well close enough to Jordan Kelly to continue this fight.
Oops, correct myself. Argentinian, not Italian. I'm going to set off an international incident at this rate. Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, indeed. 15 minutes to go. And Jordan Kelly starting to be a bit more separated from Dino Filippa than we've ever seen the leader be. But that's effectively just because we've seen the pass swap around. And so surely Filippa's going to be right back onto the gearbox of the car in front as we work our way on forward. Do not forget that you can join us on youtube.com/racing_prodigy. It's the place that you will be able to watch the results, effectively, of our Prodigy search committee, our 2 judges, the sim racing influencer and the real world driver, that are going to work together to figure out which additional driver that does not win one of our tournaments are going to join us at our Prodigy week, so just make sure to subscribe and join us for all the fun. Going back to 10th position, I was talking about the gap, Luca Becker and Sam Smith. It's now within half a second between the two, and there's no draft in front, and there's some company behind.
He's got the L's behind him. He's got Luca, Lewis, and Luke. Don't get tongue twisted there, because they are all in this battle now. Ewan Baker in that orange car in control here. He's got quite a gap, but here comes Luca Becker to the inside of Sam Smith into turn one. Not given much room by the 55 of Smith, but given just enough to stick it to the inside. Then through the double apex right-hander here, left-hander. The inside here becomes the outside for the second half. You don't want to be the outside through the high-speed left-hander there. And Becker's got to slot back in line. You have to look for another chance to do it. Is it going to be into the hairpin? Sam Smith says, no, it's not. That door is not open.
I think as well, Becker a bit concerned about Lewis Barlow behind. You got Luke Mitchinson. That's going to be looking quite aggressive as well. Luke Barlow, 15 years young, started sim racing just a handful of years ago on the Formula One games, like I think so many of us do. He posts some stuff on YouTube as well, so go check him out. Unknown Driver is his YouTube channel, not what his Discord tag is. Yeah, I know. It's not the most ideal thing.
He's got to lean into the Barlow, though, because any fans of the British boy bands of the 1990s, he could link up with Gary Barlow, and they could do a collaboration. The old Barlow clan on sim racing. You never know what could happen.
Are you trying to get a Prodigy Racing League boy band together? Is that what your big plan is here?
We got a lot of candidates here. It's entirely possible, but right now, Luke Mitchinson, I mean, he could join the boy band if he wants. Not joining P12, though. Fell a little bit off the back out of turn 12 there. He's going to have to keep waiting.
Another one of the Australian contingent. He does, maybe it's just me projecting, but does look a little bit fatigued right now. Not sure if he's going to be staying up after this or going straight to sleep, but...
Well, he's got a mug of coffee behind him on the desks there. That's got to be helping him a little bit.
Trying to stay awake, maybe, is I think the way to put it. Says that he usually races V8 supercars as his main thing. This is a very different sort of a driving experience. I'm not sure how much of that is truly going to cross over. Just look at in the front, though. Mitchinson's got a great view as once again Becker challenges and forced a long way around.
I mean, we've seen as much contact in this race as a V8 supercars race, but it hasn't ended quite so well for some of these guys. They are back in line now, so that has been resolved for the moment. There's not going to be much that transfers between a high-powered V8 supercar, especially the old gen V8 supercar that we still have here on iRacing, but it is still road course racing all the same, and Luke Mitchinson has been exceptional in basically every kind of it that we've seen him do, and it's good to have at least somebody propping up the supercars.
I mean, just look at some of those drivers as they make their way over to America, right? Not just Scott McLaughlin, who made his start in the iRacing Indianapolis 500. That's where I think we first saw his potential to go over to American Open Wheel Racing. We've seen, of course, now Shane Van Gisbergen, we can say his name correctly, as well as Brody Kostecki, another one that joined us in some iRacing Indy 500s, making their way over to NASCAR this weekend at the Brickyard. Luca Becker's going to try the up and under, but in through the opening corner, it's not really going to happen. We've got 11 minutes to go. I've just been looking at the lap times of our race leader. Jordan Kelly's fastest lap, a 54.861. Fastest lap for Henry Moore, a 54.753. Currently semi-final one, tracking to be the faster of the semi-finals.
Could get very interesting, though, because Dino Filippa sitting in second could potentially have a big draft if he's able to go for a move for the lead. This could help him very, very much here. Michael Romanidis has also done a pretty solid lap, 54.774. So the time is there. You just need to find yourself in the lead of the race. You need to actually make the move. And Dino Filippa, for the first time, we're actually seeing an attempt at the race lead. Not quite far enough along to the outside into turn one to go for it, but that is a good sign that Dino does want to take this race lead. He's not going to sit back.
He's trying to set things up, and you can just see direct drive wheelbase surely in play there, how much his hands are being forced back and forth. That's the nature of force feedback, responding to the force that you're giving it, counteracting it with the force that it applies. All sorts of loose for Dino Filippa, but just about able to hold on to it. By the way, on his headset, are the LEDs corresponding to the revs?
It's possible. I mean, they look pretty rhythmic, but at the same time, no, you just saw him through the final corner there, and they stayed solid red. I think it might just be a coincidence, but that would be cool if they did.
I was just wondering if they're Logitech headsets. I do know that my keyboard does that when I'm broadcasting, so I wasn't sure.
I think they do, because I'm watching the revs on his wheel right now.
Yeah.
Look at this, green.
I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's not much use for the driver, but it's useful for us. Dino Filippo goes defensive for Michael Romanidis, who looks to try and maybe get back up into second spot. But with these 4 drivers 4 seconds separated from 5th position with 9 minutes to go, realistically, they could decide to fight like they're doing for 10th position with a spot in the final up for grabs. Don't forget, the next event in the Prodigy Racing League is over on Race Room in the Tortoise Formula 4. Another Prodigy Pass is on the line. Head to racingprodigy.com to sign up.
Side by side, 11th and 12th. Luca Becker took a peek at Sam Smith. He had 10th for a millisecond, but has since lost it and now finds himself fighting for 11th again. He's got to hope that the 2 L's behind him and Lewis and Luke don't fight him too hard, because they've got to make some ground back up to Sam Smith to bring this battle for 10th up again. Ewan Baker's pretty safe in 9th. He's got about a 3-second gap. But Lewis Barlow, we look into his room, the effervescent brightness behind him, hopefully not giving him a glare as there's a huge slide from Luca Becker.
Lewis Barlow was 37th in the time attack qualifiers, but shows that the race pace maybe is up there. He's able to get to the inside, but all sorts of sideways and slippery. It's going to be door to door and still alongside as they head off into the switchback hairpins. But I think the momentum on the side for the 15, it's a send under the brakes from Mitchinson to try and grab back 11th. But Sam Smith's got almost 2 seconds clear up in 10th.
Sam Smith is going to be the happiest guy in the world right now, because the 3 L's, they've taken a rather large L with just that little bit of side-by-side. They lost almost 2 seconds up to him. Luke Mitchinson's pretty safe right now. He's pulled away, but Luca Becker, the big loser out of all of that. We didn't really see it from the onboard of Barlow, but he made a little bit of contact with Lewis Barlow. I think he ended up in the air a little bit, if anything, and eventually was able to save it, but lost a ton of time.
In terms of movers, we had, what, plus 9 for Soriano in the first of the qualifiers. Biggest mover is Jason Smith with plus 6. Mitchinson and Becker both have plus 4 as well, but they will want those couple extra spots to get up and up into the top 10. With less than 7 minutes now to go, and with your leaders in the final sector getting ready to head towards the line, 8 laps to go.
Something like that, I think so. 7 minutes. Laps are about 55 seconds long.
Never trust the commentator's math.
I'd say 8 laps to go. Arjuna is right. I dropped out of calculus 2 weeks in, so don't consider my math, but I'd say 8 laps.
Yeah, I work in fintech. I shouldn't be saying don't trust the commentator's math when that applies to me as well.
It's all fake math over there anyway.
True, that is very true. Jordan Kelly a little bit wide. Oh, Dino Filippo had a window, but I don't think he was ever going to go for it. But you can tell that the pressure is being applied up here towards the front. Last lap for Jordan Kelly was a 54.875. Still needs to find about a 1/10 of a second to go quicker than Henry Moore in the first of the semifinals.
Right on board with Michael Romanidis, the Coanda driver, 3rd in line here still. Wasn't able to make a move on Jordan Kelly for the lead, hasn't been able to make a move on Dino Filippo for 2nd, but is that deliberate? Is he hanging back and hoping that the battle rages on up front? Out of the final corner, it's another good exit from Filippo. Not good enough, though. The draft is very, very effective in these cars. Not going to be effective for him to fully pull alongside and outbrake Kelly into turn 1. He's going to have to try and go for the switchback here. Big swerve to the inside, and he loses it. He saves it, but he's going to 3rd.
It was the 2-foot shuffle there, and then Filippo back up the inside of Romanidis. It's going to be the Coanda driver that grabs 2nd back, though, but with Filippo trying to undercut once again. Less than 5 minutes almost to run, and now could Jordan Kelly take advantage of a side-by-side fight for 2nd? Dino Filippo is going to bully Michael Romanidis into submission, and the 14's back into 2nd.
Fantastic move to take that back. Well recovered after a mistake from Filippo, seemingly getting on the brakes later than anybody else can through that hairpin. But he's lost 0.8 of a second to the leader again. He's out of draft range, actually, just barely. He's in the precipices of it. He's not going to get much of it down the front straight, and that's going to put him under pressure from Romanidis here. Romanidis needs to know, though, that if he goes for this move, that ends all of their chances for the win, and he knows that, hangs back in line. He's going to give Filippo another chance to catch up to Jordan Kelly, and then they can all kick off again.
Well, I guess the way to think about it for Romanidis is maybe I can't grab a spot on the front row, but instead of starting on row 3, which is what finishing in 3rd corresponds to in a semi-final, maybe I can get a spot on the 2nd row. Those are some of those things that these drivers will be thinking about. And for someone like Romanides, the experience of having been part of the first semi-final, yes, it was outside of the top 10, Joey, but how will that play into his mindset right now?
I mean, he knows about the events, he knows the format, he knows what he has to do, and he is well aware of the intensity that's going to come in the final, sort of a step up in intensity. It's been intense enough in these semifinals, trying to get the qualifying spots, trying to get in the top 10, but it's only going to be so much more once the prizes are on the line tomorrow. Once everything, the invite to Prodigy Week will be on the line. It's going to be that much more intense, and Romanides seems like a guy who's good with intensity. He hasn't changed his facial emotion once in this entire race, so I think he's prepared for that, but he wants to be in the best possible spot in the grid.
I mean, it's all those experiences in the limelight. I guess there's no other way to put it, right? When you're competing in the world of F1 esports, when you're representing some of those brands, when you're representing a juggernaut like Coanda, you get used to the situations and you have to deal with it as they come. I remember seeing Charlie Collins in this year's Porsche Esports Super Cup a little bit frustrated at times during the course of the season, but ultimately never really showed it even when we got the opportunity to talk to him. There's a look at the drivers who are fighting for 2nd, not taking a look at Jordan Kelly, because I think right now we're not thinking there's going to be a fight for 1st. It's behind where we think with 3 minutes to go, we'll get some drama. Through that shortcut at turn 2, still top 4 separated by 1 second. A gap between Sam Smith and Luca Becker for the transfer spots to the final now sits at 2 seconds, so it's a bit of a comfortable margin, as I do believe we have 3 laps to go at the line this time, Joey.
Indeed, 3 laps to go. We don't have to do any math to know that. We know that to be 100% true. And Dino Filippa, once again, it looks very, very similar to that previous lap, about 3 laps ago when he got a chance out of the final corner. Maybe needs 1 more lap to get that much closer, but he has brought that gap down again. Filippa is the fastest driver on the grid, I think, right now. He's the fastest driver in the race. You can see it in the lap time, 54.724. If he gets another chance, he's going to have to find a way to the inside, because Kelly has been exceptional defensively.
The thing right now is as well, Kelly does not look like he is going to improve on his best time of a 54.839. Henry Moore's 54.753 still stands as the faster lap of the 2 winning cars, provisionally winning cars, when it comes to determining who starts from pole position in tomorrow's final. And that might be important given how difficult it is to pass, to be able to control the tempo at the start of the race, to control when you're going to jump the field. On board with Filippa, because it is with these final 2 laps that if there is going to be a move, the desperation is going to be shown. Powering out of the final corner, Jordan Kelly into the gravel, and Dino Filippa in the draft and trying to work on forward.
Here we go. He's going to be as far alongside as he's ever been. He's almost entirely alongside to turn 1. Around the outside goes Dino Filippa, interlocking wheels with Jordan Kelly. It's not going to be ideal to be on the outside into turn 2, though. He's going to keep trying to fight. He's going to slide it a little bit, but Kelly's going to hang on.
Oh, and they almost touch. Kelly slams the door shut, and I think Romanides makes contact with Filippa. The 2 get intertangled with one another. And was there a rejoin from Michael Romanides that took out anyone else, or was everyone else scrambling through there safely? Dino Filippa may be the only victim. Is he going to hold on to a spot in the top 10?
It's going to be tough to do so. I don't think Romanides took anybody with him, so I don't think he'll get any sort of penalty there, but interlocking wheels with those 2 cars, and Dino Filippa is in immense danger right now. Jordan Kelly's perfectly safe. He's got a 1.5 second gap to Thomas Chimon, but Dino Filippa in danger.
We know how big the draft is. Jordan Kelly has been the quickest car so far in the 2nd semi-final and will lead us onto the very final lap of semi-final 2. There's Dino Filippa. He's the bridge up to Sam Smith now, with Becker, Mitchinson and Barlow, the 3 Ls, all on his tail with 1 final lap to survive.
One more time around here. You see the train, and you see how aggressive Luca Becker was in the back of Sam Smith. How aggressive is he going to be on the back of Dino Filippa for this final spot? A driver who might have a little bit of damage through the full throttle left-hander here. It's a great exit from Luca Becker. He is going to send a dive into the hairpin if he can. The doors close, but can he get by on the outside?
I think the question is, how much straight line speed does Felipe have? Is that what's compromised him, or does he have the ability to hold on? Jordan Kelly holds on though. 25 minutes of pressure, and the 99 comes out on top in virtual reality. A little bit less emotion than from Henry earlier on tonight, but of course in a great spot on the front row of the grid. Dino Felipe is, I think, just gonna hold on to a spot in the top 10. It came down to the wire. Romanidis dropped back in the end to 9th position as well. Well, race control might not be done with that one, Joey, but that for us was a fantastic semi-final too. It was intense at the start, it settled into a rhythm in the middle, and it all escalated once more come the checkered flag.
Absolute craziness deeper in the field. Marcelo Panicia, I gotta give him a shout out as well. I don't think we said his name once for the entirety of the race, and he's very, very comfortable on row number 6 for tomorrow. Great race for him, and what a phenomenal race all the way through both of these races today. Imagine how the final's gonna be.
I don't think we could show enough replays to figure out everything that's happened in both the races. There will be plenty of consternation amongst the drivers. I wonder what race control's going to have to work their way through. Jordan Kelly should be clear at the front, as should Tamas Shimon in the front 2 positions. Jason Smith takes advantage to make it 3. 2 drivers out of the 3 from Ireland on the podium. Zero Sambra is going to be up there in 4th, along with Ross Banfield, who will be delighted that he is able to make his way to a 2nd consecutive Prodigy Racing League iRacing final. Marcelo Panicia, Ewan Baker, Sam Smith, Michael Romanidis, and then Dino Felipe, the last 2 drivers, just squeaking in. Luca Becker, Luke Mitchinson, and Lewis Barlow. They're the 3 that take the L's, while Radek Kvitz had plenty of support in the chat, unfortunately 14th for him, with David Brown and Austin Jackson, the final cars on the lead lap. Unfortunate retirees, the likes of Hans Molat, Evan Pikul, and Vlad Kimichev, be ultimately quite frustrated with not being able to show off their speed. Here's a look at the sequence when initially the opportunity was presented for Felipe to challenge the long way around. And then as they cut back through the left, Joey, okay, Felipe maybe overcompromised and overextended himself there.
An argument with 2 cars, and as I said, in these cars, it never ends well. When you make that little bit of contact, you're interlocking wheels, you're intersecting suspension pieces, and that just ends with 2 cars parked, basically. But well done by both of them to continue. They're both going to finish in the top 10, but will they stay there?
Well, we've got to ask what Jordan Kelly was thinking when for a moment it seemed like he was one with the cars trying to work your way from behind. Plenty of pressure from behind there, Jordan, but you absorbed it like a sponge. Great drive.
Yeah, it was a good race. I knew Michael would keep up and probably pull the rest of them after the rest of them watched the first race. They probably realised not to battle and try and catch the leaders and stuff. And it was unfortunate to see the battle go that way in the last 2 laps that he spun off my gearbox and took Michael with him, but I suppose that's just the way racing happens sometimes, and lucky to get the one in the end and stay out of problems.
I've got to ask, if you saw the result from semi-final 1 or any of the racing, did you note the lap time of the winner? Were you keeping track of that for you here? Yeah,
I knew Henry was done a very fast lap there, or whoever it was, I can't even remember now, but it was I know Henry, I've raced with him a lot, and he's a very fast driver, so it's going to be good to have somebody that you know is a very clean driver alongside you in the front row, so should be some good racing tomorrow, and hopefully some good results.
It looks quite difficult to pass up towards the front. What do you have in store for us tomorrow? What's the special sauce you've got cooking?
Well, hopefully one, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard with the pace of these lads, and it's going to be all about qualifying and just getting a good start and not getting into any problems and being there when you need to be there. So we'll see what we can do from there.
One final question, we'll let you go. How does your experience in the Formula Ford and Formula V carry over from the real world to the sim?
Yeah, it seems to be helped me a lot. The sims actually helped me so much from being able to do laps on here and going straight to, I'd say, a track in the UK. It's helped me such a ton to be able to push that extra wee bit, and find that extra time in the real world.
Well, Jordan, congratulations on winning your semi-final tomorrow. The Prodigy Pass is on the line. Best of luck. We'll see you back here on RaceSpotTV.
Thanks a lot.
Always great to chat with a winner, give us some insight into the racing that we've just seen. And 40 whittled down now to 20. And tomorrow we go racing one more time, Joey.
One more time for that Prodigy Pass. It is going to be absolutely fantastic. You saw Calamity, Chaos, and some dominant winners today. Now you've got those two dominant winners fighting against each other with 18 more drivers behind them trying to kick them off the top step. It is going to be dramatic. It is going to be fantastic, and we hope you'll join us in about 22 hours' time to see who gets those Prodigy Passes and a chance at Prodigy Week.
Let's just remind you what Prodigy Week is all about. October 30th through November 1st, the Prodigy Pass winners fly out to the Atlanta Motorsports Park to compete in a radical SR1 to get tested in areas like fitness, in their mental focus, in all different aspects. They are evaluated, and then we will work our way into determining our winner. Of course, the Prodigy Search Committee gives the drivers who don't win a tournament to advance. You can win a tournament on Race Room by heading on to racingprodigy.com. Don't forget to follow everything on social media to learn when the next tournaments are coming up across of all the different sim platforms. Before we say goodbye, let's thank those that make all of this possible, starting with SimLab and Grid. Right now, you can order their exceptional products for sim racers seeking the utmost quality. SimLab's P1X Sim Racing Cockpit has become the gold standard in the industry, while Grid by SimLab has a premium line of official Porsche licensed products available for you. Aztec Sim Sports are also proud sponsors of the Prodigy Racing League. Their Invicta Quick Release Adapter maximizes the wheel options compatible with the Aztec Sim Sports wheelbases, and no matter your wheel, integrated power and data allows for hassle-free connectivity between the wheel and the wheelbase. We'll be back here tomorrow to go racing in the final to hand out the third of the Prodigy Passes. You can catch the action on RaceSpotTV, on the iRacing Esports Network, and most importantly on YouTube Racing Prodigy. On behalf of the team behind the scenes, for Hugo Luis, Juliana Cesar, Camille Morais, and Dane Baird, Joey Tebbett alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow to hand out yet another Prodigy Pass.